right? Online. But as you're going to see, United breaks guitars and things like that. But as we're going to see, actually, surprisingly, there's not as much negative feedback out there in online reviews. And I'm going to need your help. I'm going to need your input as to why this thing happens. We don't have a lot of negative feedback. Okay? All right, so I think I have, this is just a little illustration here, okay, of what we thought of as an experiential effect in advertising, right? This is what we've been calling for about the last 40 years as framing, okay? We're going to show the product in an ideal consumption situation. Well, but again, that depends on the consumer. I mean, that may be your idea, but the customer may have a different idea. They may not actually like to consume Corona in the nude, okay? Or they may. But this is up to you. I mean, you have to find this out, and you have to go and see and observe the consumer and see, how they experience the product. What is the meaning of the brand for them? Okay, so that's sort of like the old school. That's coming one way, but it has to come back out to the brand from the consumer from now on. So, what is a bit problematic, or what doesn't work anymore? The talk media monopoly. It's not that the talk media, it is very applicable for talk media, but there's no monopoly anymore, okay? There's other media out there, and we have to rethink the situation here. And as I said, most disturbing than ever, brand has the initiative. That's not true anymore. It's not, brand is not the only partner, if you like, that has an initiative. The customer has an initiative as well. And finally, the other thing, if you notice, is that there is feedback, but the ultimate feedback, the ultimate reward for the brand was the purchasing loyalty. Okay, the consumer purchases the brand. But again, as we're going to figure out, sometimes when people buy your brand, you don't know why they buy your brand. And all of a sudden they stop buying your brand, and you still don't know why they stop buying your brand. So you got to dig deeper. And again, the new media, they're going to lead you to find out why people don't like certain things about the brand. And they're going to let you know what these things are. What still works, well, the rational, emotional, experiential. I mean, and I call them elements now, and I'm going to explain why. That still works. I mean, and of course, why can it not work? I mean, think about it. Why do people go to the internet? They're going to find information, the rational element. They're going to share their experiences about brands, the experiential element, and it makes them feel good. The emotional element. So all these three elements are still alive. They're still critical for the brand success. But now, we have to change the outlook. We have to bring in the customer as the partner in this model, which was not in the model before. Okay? Because it is the customer that gives meaning to the brand. And as I said before, now I'm not using the word effect. Because again, the effect shows that initiative, that one-way traffic, that the customer is a stationary target, and I'm going to hit them with the message, and then the only option the customer has is to accept or reject the message. Cannot hit back. But that's wrong. The customer is not a sitting target, is a moving target, number one, and now can fire back. And actually, we can become the target of the customer, not just in a bad way, in a good way as well. So we have to, in a dynamic systems terminology, okay, and I'm not trying to be cheeky here, you have to close the loop. And you have to figure out how to close the loop. So, what do we do? Where do we go from here? How do we start from the old HCW, how communications work, build it up, and make it something that's going to accommodate the customer, and therefore give us some ideas about strategy and planning. And I'm going to leave the implications for implementation to you. Probably you know better than me, but I just want to share some top-level ideas here. All right. So my idea is you have to go back to the ingredients. All right. If you want to cook up a recipe, then you have to go back to the basic ingredients, and that's my beautiful rainbow here. Okay, and we've got 3 layers, and now the first idea is rational, emotional, experiential, not effects anymore, benefits. Why do people buy brands? They're seeking benefits that's going to make the brand meaningful to them. And if that's not going to happen, if the brand is not meaningful to them, purchase is not going to happen. Meaning doesn't have to be deep, but there's got to be a meaning attached to the brand. And it's the customers that are going to do it. Okay? So let's go back to our running shoe example, one of my favorite examples. Okay? So you go to the store, you put on a pair of Nike shoes, and maybe your first reaction is, the shoe is very comfortable. Okay? Which means that the shoe is well made, or seems like it's doing its job. And this is what I call a core functional benefit. Okay? This is a rational benefit, if you like. So the shoe is well made, I can rely on the shoe, seems to be of high quality. And this is pretty much in the control of the brand, because the brand makes the product. So there's nothing about losing control but this one. But when I go out and use the product, then other things happen as well. The emotional benefits, okay, I enjoyed my run. So I like running these shoes, I like it. I can feel a connection with it, right? Makes me feel good. And then if you use it over and over again, then there's even a greater benefit. The total experiential benefit that I'm in great shape. I'm in good shape. I feel good about myself, about my shape. And I have a positive experience with these shoes. And the argument I'm making here is, these are the two things that are shaped by it's totally up to the customer that give the brand meaning. All right? So the meaning of the customer resides on whatever emotional and experiential benefits gets from the brand, of course, using the brand. And since we're talking about Nike shoes, I think one of my favorite examples, our favorite examples, is Nike Plus, right? Which pretty much embodies that conversation starting, conversation kicking idea, right? Is it an offer and a product and applications, all these things, but it starts conversations about the product. Facilitates interaction. Facilitation is another big word, okay? Maybe it's more of a think medium, all right, where there is interaction. People can write blogs about their experiences, can read blogs, can tag the brand, can tag the different people that write on the blogs as well, and they can challenge other people. So they build up the experiences, and now you have a tool here where you actually can source the meaning of the brand from the customer. So what does this mean is that there's a core, and there's two layers of shells there. The core is very rigid. The core is with the brand. The brand is in control of the core. But the shell is pretty much game for the customer. The shell can be shaped, okay, by the customer. Think about it as Play-Doh. Play-Doh, the clay, where you can shape it into different shapes and things like that. Think about the emotional experiential benefits of the customers are as the moldable elements of the brand. These are the elements that the customer can claim ownership of and can change them and can push the brand to make other changes as well. Okay? So, soft shell to hardcore, and nothing dirty there about hardcore, okay? There's a different meaning to it. So, there's basically two territories, two spaces, and the brand is the territory that is controlled by the brand, what I call the core functional benefits. The shoe is well made, the shoe is very comfortable. That's the brand space. That's not negotiable. That's why I call it the core. The core is rigid. You cannot change it. Okay? But the rest, which perhaps is more important, the emotional benefits and the experiential benefits, that's the shell part. This is the moldable part. This is the shapeable part. And that's up to the customer. And that gives a meaning. And If the meaning of the brand changes or declines for the customer, that means that it's time for changes. It's time for feedback. And that's where the co-creation happens. Basically, the customer says, I don't feel good about this brand anymore. It's up to you. And these are some of the reasons, but it's up to you to come up with a better brand or a better product. So you still have the initiative as a brand, taking into account the feedback or the criticism, if you like, of the other brands or the consumers. So, well, we all know what this brand is. What this brand is alluded to. What's, huh? It's Volvo, right? And it's a very simple example of how customers, consumers can mold brands, the emotional experiential element, because this is something that expresses their experiences and their feelings with the brand. And I'm not sure if you know this site brandtags.net, where you actually, consumers go in there and they can tag different brands and they can give associations to different brands. But those associations are based on customer experiences. And they can change over time if, brands fumble up. Now, of course, there's much more sophisticated ways of doing the social tagging thing, right? There's media aggregators, news aggregators, there's social bookmarking, and you can basically match the content of blogs to the kind of words that they're used for your brand. All sorts of sophisticated tools that are not necessarily cheap, okay? For a lot of times, because you have to dig deep on the internet. But this is just a rudimentary example of how meaning is shaped by the consumers and can be expressed. And it's easily accessible. It's common knowledge. It's free to access. Okay. Here's an example where we had a discussion before with around whether this is real or fake. Maybe it's fake. You ask in the U.S., they're going to say it's real. Worked out very well. According to the sales figures, at least, the unofficial title of the campaign was "Our Pizza Sucks," but I think the official title is something like "We Changed Our Pizza" or something like that. So let me play, if I may, a bit of the YouTube video just to give you an idea. Turn around, sorry.
There comes a time when you've got to make a change. You can't lead a company like this unless you love food. I love food. I love pizza. It was about 50 years ago that they started the first store just about 5 miles from here.
Two brothers had a great idea, and they also said they wanted to get it delivered within 30 minutes, and that's something that no one said could be done. In fact, the first pizza delivery vehicle for our company is that vehicle right there. Around the 80s, we were exploding. We were the fastest growing company in the history of franchise business. Nothing had ever grown like that.
Now we're almost 9,000 restaurants around the world. We love what we do at Domino's.
Pizza, where's the love? How hard? Bread, sauce, cheese, fresh ingredients. Doesn't feel like there's much love in Domino's pizza.
Domino's pizza crust, to me, is like cardboard.
Is it hard to watch this stuff?
Yeah, it's hard to watch.
I hear what some folks are saying about our stuff.
Oh, this one's bad. Worst excuse for pizza I've ever had.
The sauce tastes like ketchup.
Totally void of flavor.
You know what? When you first hear it, it's shocking.
The cardboard complaint is the most common one.
This we hear over and over and over.
I mean, that hits you right in the heart. This is what we've done. This is what I've done, for 25 years now.
You can either use negative comments to get you down, or you can use them to excite you and energize your process of making a better pizza. We did the latter.
Most companies hide the criticism that they're getting, and we actually faced it head on.
Some people didn't get us credit for the taste of our product. That's what we're fixing.
We listen to our consumers, and they want us to be better, and we want them to be happier. We want people to love our pizza.
This is what's driving us. This is what's lit the fire under us. This is what's making us want to get better.
It's been crazy down here. We had our best chefs working hard to find the best combination, looking at 10 crust types, 15 sauces, dozens of cheeses.
You can't just add a little salt or add a little something to the recipe. I mean, we basically had to start over with a new recipe.
And they were working day and night and weekends to get it done.
You know, this is Roxanne. She's one of the lead chefs for pizzas, and she's constantly trying new stuff, and she's saying, try this and try that. You know, the day she put this in front of me...
Okay, I think we got the idea here, but, you know, as the guy said, even if it's a setup in some sense, or, you know, obviously they pick and choose whatever criticism kind of like suits them, the idea is the same. As the guy said, you know, you can take negative criticism and you can turn it into something constructive, right? And you can do that. You have the opportunity to do this. So supposedly, it started with social media. That's where the complaint started off. Then they picked some people with focus group that became more obvious, and then they made changes in the product, and they came back with it. And, well, we're not sure whether customers are happy with it or not, but they're doing better, okay, sales-wise. It's kind of nice, or maybe disturbing, to see how people get too excited about what they're doing. You know, we're Domino's Pizza and all that. I'm not so sure, but I guess it's a good sign. You know, so some people love what they do. Now, remember, you know, we talked about the two kinds of spaces, you know, the meaning space and the core space, brand space, and now it works the other way around, you know. Now, this is the way it comes down from the consumer. You know, pizza sucks. Dough tastes like cardboard. Crust tastes like cardboard. We don't like it, okay? And we express those emotions in social media conversations. Now, so one way, or one thing that happens here is now the criticism comes in. The traffic becomes two-way. Well, you got the option to listen or not to listen. In this particular case, let's say we've got the listening from the brand, and they make product changes, okay? And that's great. So we already have one part that, you know, went one level over, which is basically now we have communications coming from the consumer, but now we have a second thing coming, which is basically we listen to these things, make product changes, complete the feedback, as the previous presenter talked about, close the loop, and now we can have a meeting that's completely different. At least you get the reaction, these guys get it. Maybe they did something. Maybe they didn't do much. It wasn't much about the product, but at least they appear to be sensitive. Is it real? Is it fake? Well, you know, you can't tell. A lot of things in life are fake, but we'll still take them, right? Because it makes us feel better. And again, the experience, or the jury is still out about the experience, but at least you made the first step, which is taking the feedback and doing something with it. So what happens here is you had the remolding and reshaping of the brand, going all the way down to the core, letting the brand change the core of the product, go back again to the market and see what the reaction is. And this is one way to think about how consumers shape the brand, but also the brand has an opportunity to reinvent itself. That's what closed the loop. Yes, sir.
I think that in a way, one of the problems they have is they're trying to change the brand. The reality is that at some point they lost track that they were the 30-minute pizza. Mm-hmm. They were the pizza that was delivered to your door in less than 30 minutes, and then if they didn't do that, they would give you the pizza free. Right. I don't know when they lost that, and by losing that, they're not giving you a pizza that is 20 minutes or 15 minutes out of the oven, and it's not as fresh. Right. So yes, they can change now the ingredients, but the pizza will continue to suck, because if they continue to deliver it late, they're going to have a problem. So in a way, I think they're changing the core. They're changing it in a way that is not related to the values of why they were founded. So I think that's one of the criticisms on Domino's Pizza is that they're actually probably letting the consumers shape the company without them having their own agenda. Which I
Okay. Well, point well taken, but what I would say also is that these things change. Again, like they evolve, so what customers think is, well, they also think that, relatively speaking, is quite expensive, at least in the US, right? So we prefer to have a better value than having a 30-minute delivery, if that's going to make a difference, right? So sometimes it depends on the trade-off, and the trade-off changes. So if people say, well, enough is enough, we don't want a cardboard tasting 30-minute pizza, or like a 45-minute pizza that tastes a little bit better, maybe they're willing to take it, and that's up to you to find out, okay, to mine this information. So that could happen as well, and it's something that can change over the life cycle because customer preferences change, the economy changes, and perceptions about value change as well. Okay, is that? So that's part of the evolution there, that the customer preferences may evolve as well. I mean, the 30-minute thing was 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago, causing a lot of accidents. Actually, they forbid them in the US to do the guarantee because the delivery people were getting a lot of accidents and so forth, and so it was not very safe. Okay? But the idea, again, here is that you close the loop. So you have two earth-shattering things happening. Number one, negative criticism comes down to the brand. And number two, there is actually a reaction. So before we just had the one-way communication, now all of a sudden we have a feedback. And we have the loop closing. So the feedback mechanism, the fact that you can listen to the conversations and you can make changes on the core of the brand based on the conversations, that's the distinctive feature of the new way that we should be thinking about communications. That the loop is dynamic and it has to close. You have to take the feedback and reinvent the brand. And that's where Think and Trust Media come in. So, to recap, what are the basic observations here is Think and Trust Media are critical in actually shaping the emotional experiential benefits of the brand and the dimensions of the brand. And basically, the brands, they go out there and they're looking for information about the consumer. So the brand now is a buyer. The brand is a buyer of consumer sentiment, because consumer sentiment has a lot to do with how consumers think about the brand, and that's a big part of the brand. So they're out there to get marketing research, basically, the brands, from the consumers. Complete reversal of roles, complete reversal of flow, that kind of like an inbound marketing kind of idea. Now, the other observation that we have here is pretty much that, as we said, you don't necessarily lose control, because you're still in charge of how you're going to make the product, how you're going to redesign the product. The core benefits are with you, are non-negotiable. What is negotiable is the experiential and the emotional benefits. Repurchasing royalty is not the only feedback, because that's not going to give you any ideas about, what you're doing well and what you're doing badly. And the co-creation is a concept, is an idea about equal ownership of the brand between customers and brand. Okay? So the distinctive feature of the new communications model, of the new thinking about communications, is the dynamic loop, is the feedback. That it never stops. It reinvents. You have to close the loop. Nothing stays forever. Quality is not staying forever. Customer perceptions about your product don't stay forever. Customer perception of what a good product is change as well, because you've got competition coming in. We're going to talk a little bit about that. All right? So, what is the new thinking here? Well, you're going to see a picture of that, and I swear to God, I didn't see the previous presenter's presentation, Professor Sterling's, but it's pretty similar, right? What you had in the past was this. I mean, the old model was this shorter loop, okay? The rational benefits now became core benefits, quality. I call it quality core benefits. The rational and experiential elements have become customer meaning and customer experience. And the old loop was closing here with the repurchase. So people were buying your brand, you were happy as a brand. But now the loop is at least doubled. It's got the network effects. And in fact, customer experience has not shaped until it gets here. And it gets negotiated in the social network, in the conversation. So the conversations become the big grinder of what is the distilled identity, the distilled meaning of the brand, based on the customer experience which is shared. And that takes time to evolve. That's why the feedback could be immediate. Someone doesn't like the brand or like the brand, goes directly to the social network and writes out about the opinion. But how the whole idea of what the brand is all about will evolve, that's going to take time. Because reputation, satisfaction take time. But that also creates a meaningful feedback for the brand, which can act upon it and say, I'm changing the brand, I'm changing the product to come up with a better quality, to restore my reputation. Okay, so the cycle has become longer, and the critical thing here is the network effects, which will take a long time to develop, the word of mouth, but also will shape the meaning of the brand. What is the customer experience? Think about it as an aggregator of all the social tags of your brand, of all the social bookmarking of the brand. What is the overall sentiment about your brand?